callers.
Okay.
I'll move your consent agenda, Chairman.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Let me get situated here. Okay, so for next on our scheduled sessions, we have Matt Wyatt, Director of Planning and Zoning, and Pam. Pam's here too. Interim Director of Planning and Zoning, discussion decision to approve the appointment of Karen S. Anderson to the Zoning Board of Adjustment with a term ending December 31st, 2022.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. All those-
Karen is here.
Oh, she is?
Yes, back right.
Oh, hi.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you. Today.
Is she gonna take an oath or,
I don't, do you guys do that separately?
You should have it. in your
do you wanna give her her oath?
We've got another one unless they do them both at the same
There's
time.
two of them.
Unless there's
Yeah, I believe you do that.
two different commissions. Two different committees, if the oath is different. You could do them at the same time.
Yep, we do got them here. Get organized, thank you. You wanna come up here to the center here and we'll, first we need to approve it, correct?
Only if I can have a crown or something.
Do we need to vote to approve it first?
I did. When we did the motion.
We didn't vote, so let's just, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Okay, so let's go ahead and.
You can stay back there.
It's all right. Come forward. I gotta get on this camera.
No.
Okay, so go ahead and hold your right hand up. I, Karen S. Anderson,
I, Karen S. Anderson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all duties
discharge all duties
of the Potawatomi County Zoning Board of Adjustment,
for the Potawatomi County Board of Adjustment,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
as defined in the Iowa Code,
as defined in Iowa Code,
Chapter 335,
Chapters 335,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Do the whole
Very
arm
nice.
shake.
Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you. I
Let me
better
sign
read
this
that
real
code now.
Let me sign this real quick.
Okay.
So you just sign there and I'll sign it. Cool, thank you very much. Congratulations. And welcome to the team. Thank you.
Is he running Audrey?
Yes.
Okay, and
I'll make a
now,
motion to appoint Dolores D. Silkworth to the Planning and Zoning Commission with the term ending date of December 31, 2022.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Dolores, wanna come up? I don't know how well your short-term memory is, that's why I was doing it in small bouts, so.
That's good.
All right, so raise your right hand. I, Dolores D. Silkworth,
I, Dolores D. Silkworth,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties of the Potawatomi County Planning and Zoning Commission,
discharge all of the duties of the Potawatomi County Planning and Zoning
Zoning
Commission.
There you go.
according to the best of my ability,
According to the best of my ability,
as defined in Iowa Code,
as defined in Iowa Code,
Chapter 335,
Chapter 335,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
You're so
Thanks,
welcome.
Dolores.
See
Congratulations.
you all.
I'll have you sign this real quick before you go.
Oh, yes.
This is your oath. Thanks, Tom. You just got a big picture of my bald head there.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot better. Somebody keeps missing us, mate.
Can't
Thank
find the
you,
date.
Gary.
Camera
All
control.
right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Sign this quick, and I'll move on.
It's in the packet. Just for you.
Okay, oh, you printed, I printed some out over there.
Okay,
Maggie Berger on the phone.
Maggie, we got you on the
Oh.
phone?
Okay.
Yes, I am here from Spear Financial, Maggie Berger.
All right, and
Hi,
then
Maggie.
is Becky on the phone too?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we got Maggie and Becky. Next on the agenda, we have Becky and Maggie with Spear Financial. It's an update discussion on the 2020 bonding projects. Do you wanna, Becky, you wanna kind of kick this off or?
Sure. We are at the point in our 2020 issue with all of the public hearings we held both in March and then the last couple we held in July to start making a decision on our issuance that we did our pre-levy for. We have a debt schedule and we need to issue our bonds. So to stay compliant and stay on track, we were asking Maggie to just give a scenario if, and this is just still all pending decision of board discussion, if we were to issue for all of the projects that we have given ourselves the authority to since the beginning of the year, with that total, what would a typical or probable schedule look like right now if we issued everything? Knowing that we still have the opportunity or the ability to issue for all or issue, if there's some things that have changed and we're no longer doing those projects with bonds. So I will turn it over to Maggie to discuss. I believe in your Dropbox you'll have the subject to change schedule marked up with that scenario in mind from Maggie.
Yeah, thank you, Becky. So good morning, everyone. This is Maggie Berger from Spear Financial. And the total of the hearings, and this is just for 2020A, so these are more or less capital improvements, not only to, regular improvements that you're making to courthouses or offices in the courthouse, as well as the parks. I know there was a lot of money this year in hearings for conservation projects, et cetera. That total comes up to $4,610,000. We have provided you a debt service schedule. If you'll recall back in February, when we were talking and that number was a little less, it was about 1.5 million less because you've done some additional hearings just recently for about 1.5 million. When we were talking about, setting your pre-levy amount and what you needed, what that borrowing needed to be to get you to the levy that you have in place, which is 49 cents. It's about 49 cents is what you levied in the debt service. So back in March we were talking, and that was going to be about a 3-year. With the addition of $1.5 million, we have stretched that out to 5 years, and 5 years is definitely not long, so not stretching it out too long. But what it allows for the county to do is hit that 49 cents in 21, fiscal year 21's budget, but it takes you back down to around 31 cents for 22. And I know that the county has some additional plans and thoughts, or you're having some additional plans and thoughts, and that would allow you the ability for 22 to either levy ahead on some additional debt that you could pay it off early, or to implement additional bonds, just like what you did this spring as you were planning. So we still think that the 5-year schedule, which is very short in a time frame, still works well. You start off with a very large principal payment in year 1, then you drop off principal payments to around $750 down to about $660,000 a year. So still very much in line. We're estimating this interest rate for our purposes right at around 1.56% for 5 years. Now, I think the rate probably is a little bit lower, but We were working on the assumption that, at this point in time, we hadn't really implemented a timeline, which is something else we should talk about this morning. But really, if you issue the $4.6 million, as you've done in the past, there's some flexibility within those hearings to move some of the project money around if necessary to other projects within that same realm or same purpose. Or, a lot of these project costs, I think, Becky, and I think you've all talked before, a lot of these are estimates. And then this gives you some flexibility if those project costs come in at $5,000 or $10,000. There was some kind of, say, some build-in there getting us to the $4.6 million. So I would answer any questions that you've got about the $4.6 million or selling that 20A as it's, as that $4.6 million over about a 5-year repayment.
Maggie, before the board considered that extra 1.5, was our repayment a 3-year repayment for what we budgeted for?
Yes, it was. So the 3-year schedule, we still were at that 49 cents in year one, and we dropped it again off to about around, I want to say 35 cents instead of 30 cents. So this really just drops it a few extra pennies, and it's not that we have to do that, but that just gives you some flexibility, because if we put fiscal 21 and fiscal 22 at 49 cents, which we can do, that just means you don't have any flexibility for about the next 15 months to issue any additional debt that you want to pay with debt service levy. And I didn't think I didn't think you wanted to restrict yourself that much at this point in time, which is why we implemented a small drop in the debt service levy for fiscal year 22.
Did you provide us with a 5-year payback on the original?
We did not, because it really, it was with the $2 million amount that we were talking about, $3.1 million. We did not, because that first payment was 1.7. So the first payment of principal has remained at 1.7 because you have so much debt. You had so much debt dropping off between 20 and 21. We needed to sort of boost that payment up and make it pretty significant. So we didn't give you a 5-year schedule, just because, again, that 5-year schedule those payments would have been very, very small, because, again, 1.7 of the 3.1 was going to disappear in year one. And I want to make sure that everybody knows we're just recommending the 5-year schedule to give you some flexibility. If you sit here and tell me, no, we don't want any flexibility, we won't do any other debt issuances, we can change it and make it closer to probably a 4-year schedule at this $4.6 million amount. But we were just kind of building in some room for flexibility over the next few years if you had any other debt issuance plans or thought you may have debt issuance plans.
So our debt levy as of today is
49.
It is this the right one?
For fiscal year 21, it's 49 cents, and that's really what we've matched at with the outstanding levies and the new debt that we're bringing in. So in the middle of our debt schedule, we do bring in the outstanding levies to get us to the 49 cents. So, and with that being said, that's sort of why we have to have the timeline conversation, because sooner than later, Allers and Cooney is going to make you issue this debt in whatever format. It's going to have to be at least in an amount that gets you up to 49 cents in fiscal year 21. You did a pre-levy resolution as part of your budget. We are now in the new budget year of fiscal year 21. You are going to start collecting property taxes on that debt service levy in the month of September. And it is not usually in the best interest of bond counsel that you are collecting property tax dollars before you've made the plan to issue the debt in the foreseeable future. So that's part of kind of our second piece of the conversation is we would really like to implement a timeline so that you can get this debt issued sometime, in the month of September, maybe even late September, because again, you're going to be starting to collect property taxes. So we'll say we're a little bit in reverse here, but we know a lot of other things have come up this summer for discussion and probable bond issuances, and so we were trying to keep those bond issuances all together to help save you guys some money. And so we really just wanted to talk a little bit about, timing of all of this.
Maggie, this is Melvin. Is there a place in there, do we need to get another Moody's rating?
Yes, you will require another Moody's rating. Probably if we sell bonds at the end of September, it'd probably be right around the middle of September. Moody's ratings basically are done on issuance size when you're going to do a new issuance. The market right now is very favorable to having a rating, meaning we are getting more and additional bidders when we have ratings. We're getting low interest rates when we have ratings. We would only be able to sell an issuance of probably $1 million or less for you without a rating. If we sell, $4.6 million, obviously we need a rating. The one thing I will say is, as we've talked about the urban renewal bonds, as we've talked about John Rasmussen from the engineering department about doing local option sales tax revenue bonds for his secondary road buildings, they are still GO bonds. So even though they're local option sales tax abated, they are still GO bonds. So you would have one Moody's rating, Melvin, that would encompass, we'll say, the total amount of the borrowing, because technically they're all GO borrowing. Even though one is really for county purposes, one is for urban renewal, and one is for secondary roads, they all are still GO purposes. So it should just be one rating.
Yeah, no, I figured we'd need it. I just wanted to know where it would fit in the timeline.
Yeah, I think I have it down there the week of September 20th, or September 14th.
Oh, okay, all right, that's what that is.
Yeah, if we were to sell bonds at the end of September for all of these projects, then it would be the week of September 14th.
Okay.
Likely. Now, we could make that adjustment. If we needed it to be the week before because of any types of vacations or anything, we could do that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So am I hearing it right that if we're gonna do this urban renewal, we need to get it done before September?
Well, to save
Or at
costs.
least, yeah.
Right. Well, I think that now that you're through sort of the joint agreement, the next viable, you're setting a date of public hearing on the urban renewal. I think today is what is on your agenda today, to set that urban renewal public hearing at not to exceed $1.1 million. You'll hold that public hearing in August. And then as we have it then here on August 25th, we would need a final decision by the Board of Supervisors on those GO borrowings. As it stands right now, the county improvements, you've got hearings at $4.6 million. Secondary roads, in my conversation with John Rasmussen, he's thinking he needs about $2 million plus cost of issuance. So we're probably in that $2,050,000 range or $2,040,000 range, somewhere in there, to do for his project. And that's just project number one. He will likely be doing another issuance next year when you guys go to possibly borrow any additional debt. He would be interested in being a part of that issuance as well, and that probably would be for the remaining $6 million. His hearings altogether were $8 million, so he's thinking he needs about $2 million plus cost of issuance, and then the remaining, which will be just under $6 million, it would be done next spring. And that's just because he doesn't have that second maybe land purchase quite yet, and he doesn't have that building all, we'll say, kind of with some better estimated numbers and designs. So that would then put you at the only other decision to be made would be urban renewal projects. And I think we're going to talk with maybe next week. I am technically out on vacation this week, so we're going to talk next week with the folks that have kind of been heading that urban renewal project up and talk about the amount that needs to be borrowed for that, and talk through all of what those options look like from a repayment standpoint.
The first conversation she.
No, just now. Okay.
So
Okay.
Maggie, the two options I see that the board has is to continue with the existing bond plan that we discussed during our budget time, which is about 3.1 million, or the 4.6 million that you provided us today.
Correct, and that's based on those additional hearings that you did just a month or so ago.
I'm going to chime in just real quick too, just to clarify. It could also look like a third scenario where maybe some of those initial projects are no longer what we were planning on issuing for. One or both of the new ones might be. Any comment, we've given ourselves the authority for that total out of those 12 hearings. Now is out of those 12 hearings, which projects do we want to proceed with? So it's not necessarily a static what we did in March and what we did now, or a combination of any of them. Maggie, would you agree?
I would agree with that, yes, there is that third option that, again, I think Becky had included that list so that you could kind of see what made up that $4.6 million, and if those are all still viable, then I think 4.6 million is your number. If there's things out of there that you want to take off or reconsider, then I think that you go down to the 3.1 or somewhere in between that number.
Right, the in-between is that third option.
Well,
Right.
the other option is somewhat based on, I think what you gave us last week, the cash that we have was a little, higher than we had anticipated, I had thought. So some of these
That's
we
true.
could,
Yeah.
Yep, that's that third option. If there's things you don't want to issue bonds for because we'd like to just use cash, that's a discussion. We just
pay
need to
some of,
come to that point where we're going to discuss what do we want to issue for and what do we want to pay cash for.
and still be able to keep that levy at the 49.
We've got to hit that 3.1 for sure, correct?
Okay. So those are, we're probably not gonna get money any cheaper.
No.
No, I don't think so. Today's rates are, I will tell you, some of the lowest that we've ever seen. Likely we're seeing rates. We did do a small short issuance of about 3 years, pretty quick repayment, $2 million, and it did come in under 1%, which is not something that we've seen in the past, so.
Okay, any other questions for Maggie? Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Do we have to actually set the date, or did we already do that?
Right now, this is just discussion on here.
Yeah, what are our next steps?
Do we have to set the date for the hearing?
I think the 1.1 million should be on your agenda somewhere else down the line. I think that was put on here just because, again, I'm just working this morning, and so I think it's on your agenda today, if I'm correct from bond counsel, the documents that came to you. So
Okay.
we'll continue our conversations with Becky and Melvin, and get some information from you guys here over the next couple of weeks so that we know those amounts that, we're going to use on all of the issuances of debt, and we'll sort of work from this timeline if that is okay with everybody.
Okay.
The 1.1 that you're talking about is that the developments that we're doing south of town?
The urban renewal, yeah, and I don't see it on my copy of the agenda
It's
today.
not, it
Did
is,
it get changed?
I don't know, was, Ehlers and Cooney supposed to have that on here, or what, I don't know.
Matt or Pam, do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about it.
I thought, I saw it on the draft agenda and the other business.
Well, we'll need to get it on next week, I guess.
Yeah, we'll just have to put on next week. So,
But
Okay,
was that really
good.
what?
I thought that it was on today, and maybe that
I
was
thought,
my
but it was only,
misunderstanding.
I thought it was only like 600 because we got 500 from the DOT, it wasn't. The project is that, the project total was 1.1, right, Matt?
Yeah, right about 1.2, then
Okay,
subtract.
that's just whatever, 1.2, but then
Subtract
500
500
off of that, right, or not?
What's that?
Isn't there 500 off of that?
Correct.
So really the bonding number was like, whatever, 600 or 700 then?
Yeah, I think they were looking at 750 for some reason.
Okay,
And that's the discussion that we're gonna have. There was a conversation, with a few people on last week that we were just gonna use the $1.1 million
that has nothing really to do.
amount for the hearing itself, that was it, and you'll issue less than that. But the 1.1 million was just because it, was what was set forth in the urban renewal plan, so we were just trying to keep the same number so as to not confuse. But again, I think based on the discussion you're having and what our thoughts are, you won't end up borrowing 1.1 million. It will be something less than that, but those are the numbers that I'd like to work with you guys on next week, with that group that we've kind of been talking about the urban renewal bonds with. We really do need to determine what that actual number is going to be and sort of walk through those costs again.
Because we want to make sure we do not issue more than we have for debt with that UR.
that's all.
So,
We did that last week.
Becky, if we don't act on that today, do we have enough
Everything's
time to publish that hearing?
All that paperwork, I kind of been sitting back waiting and just coordinating with Matt's office too. So we'll circle back. We'll have to because they would have to have that paperwork and all of that information for us.
Okay.
So we'll check on that and make sure and see if that's going to be on next week's agenda then.
Okay.
And Pam, I'll get with you and then we'll double check with Ehlers and Cooney and Maggie will make sure we're all on board. And
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
today's
I think
discussion
you'll
with
have enough
Maggie was
time
to make sure
I
she
think that's
knew.
a 10-day notice.
Okay.
So I think you'll have enough time because we had it as today and then August 18th. So we'll make sure and verify that, but likely you're gonna.
Okay, we'll put it on next week's agenda.
Yeah.
We'll get
Thank
it,
you very much.
and we'll go from there. So
What about the urban renewal project here?
that, I have to have conversations with the city, yeah.
before September 14th, we gotta get that.
So this one's only for down south. Okay. All right.
Okay, ladies, thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Maggie.
All right, I'll be in that urban renewal group early next week, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Maggie, for serving on your vacation.
No problem. I'm always for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Okay, next, Becky, we still have you on the agenda if you're still on the phone.
Yep.
Got you to talk about year-end fund balances. I think it's kind of.
Yeah, I handed stuff out to all of you, and there's some more stuff, a couple more.
Want to go into that, please?
One more here if anybody wants to look at it.
So where to start? I think, Tim, you might have been on the phone last week, but everybody else there might have saw this, that there is one, it's, blue highlighted at the top, says fund balance comparison using our estimated balances versus actual for 1920. So that was this last fiscal we just ended on June 30th. And just our main levying funds and our gaming fund and our property acquisition and improvement fund, when we had our discussions in February and March this year, and we were planning our new budget, we had estimated, and that was input from all of the departments and all of our projections, how we thought we would end the year. And that's what's important about this sheet, is how we thought we would end the year in these funds. And then how we actually ended the year in these funds is on this piece of paper. So the yellow you'll see, and there's a decision to be made later in the agenda on a fund transfer. We had proposed to do a transfer from general basic to our capital improvement acquisition property fund, Fund 19, and then it did not happen to reach the agenda or the resolution on June 23rd. My apologies, I thought it did. I even wrote it down on my paperwork, but when it was all said and done, it wasn't. So neither here nor there. That yellow information is we had thought we would. If we do still make that transfer now, that's what that balance would have looked like. Essentially showing the extra revenue or under expenses, whichever way you want to look at it, but how we thought we would end in our general fund and how we ended with more than that, with due diligence and whatnot. Extra revenues or tighter spending. Either way you want to look at it, we ended better than we even budgeted to. So that's the good news. If anybody has any questions on that, we can come back to it, or it was just more so to get a visual of what we projected and what we did. There is also, Scott, last week had requested some just fund balance history. And so there is a 3-page stapled together sheet that up on the top left, it says in balance percentage calculated on actual expenses. So this is actually from our fund balance report that runs straight out of our financials. This is no re-estimates, no projections. This is literally how our fund balances have actually ended and began. And I've got general basic on there. You can see our fund balance carryover. You know, we've been healthily growing that, and that's based on actual expenses on that fund.
Wait, Becky, I think it's on the back end of this paperclip packet.
Oh, sorry.
Well, you can't see what we see. Ours aren't stapled. Audrey ran out of staples, I guess. Oh, there it is. They are stapled.
It is
The
stapled.
pages of 3 are stapled.
They're stapled. It just might have been clumped with the I'll explain what those other reports, other data is. But if you get that back out, if you can pull that one out of your clipped pack, it starts with general basic. It also shows our general supplemental fund and then our gaming. And so you'll see the beginning balance of that gaming fund plus the revenues and the expenses per fiscal. And I've got 2013-14 up to how we ended 19-20. So, and then I went ahead and did mental health, our rural, our secondary roads, both of those funds. And then I also added at the end our property acquisition and improvement fund 19. And then we just started that rural economic development Potawatomi County Impact Fund. That's the last line there. That started this year.
So do we need a motion to do that?
Thank you.
No, I think this is information.
Sure,
The gaming reports, I mean, just if you could have done that just by month and not probably by week.
You know, I actually exported this from the system, and after I got it all, like, tried to get it all put together, I thought, well, I could go into Excel and I could start summing those up and shortening those, and I just don't have time. I will probably still do that for you yet this week because it's cleaner, but I guess I'm a data person. I was curious to see, and I thought somebody might ask, I was pleasantly surprised amidst COVID, thinking, you know, that there would be a bigger a bigger and more obvious, you know, what at this time last year in June of, you know, 18, 19, I'm just going to look at Ameristar. It is clear, and so I like that, but I should have, yes, lumped those other, the Harris and the Horseshoe, they need to be pushed up together, and I will probably still yet do that for you. We are working with the state auditors too, and we're trying to get to tax billing and real estate cleaned up, and I just did not get time to lump all that up into, but I thought, well, it'd be interesting to compare literally all of the per date and how many times they send it to us for previous fiscals. There is a clear distinction in the drop off, and you can see it in the summary of the revenues on gaming, how much different from last year to this year in revenues we had. I was pleasantly surprised though, there is one more sheet that you should have as well, the local option sales tax revenue history. I just did Fund 11 and Fund 35, our rural fund and our roads fund, and that seemed to still be a positive. It still seemed to have the growth that it had in the normal the normal fiscal progression.
But that's just for the completion of the year we just completed.
Correct.
Yeah, so.
We won't see the impacts.
We'll see how this year
So, you had March, April, half of March.
Yeah, but we're behind.
May.
Those are,
Yeah,
those
I
are
don't,
behind already. Those
Yeah.
aren't, so
yeah, I don't know how they,
that's almost a quarter behind, I think.
okay.
So we'll see how that turns out as we get
not
into
like it's
the first part of the fiscal.
We haven't seen the,
We haven't got one, you got one for July yet? I haven't seen.
I don't know.
Scott, if you take a look at this first page here, the one that's got the,
Yeah.
if you look at our gaming revenues there on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
I think we budget about 2 million in gaming revenues.
Yep.
So we're below that now. And that would have taken into account the months when we received absolutely nothing from for gaming revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still budgeting 2 million for that? I didn't think we were quite that high.
I believe we are.
Yeah, we budgeted before COVID hit, and we still left it pretty status quo.
Okay. So it's about 100,000 off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
prior.
And it kind of jumps all over the place, you know, and like in 13-14, it was 2.7 million. Then it dropped as low as 2.1 the following year,
Yeah.
2.7 million in 17-18, dropped to 500,000 the following year, or the next year. Now we're down to about 1.9. So that's still good news with the loss of revenue from those months when the
It's better than
casinos
I
were
thought it
closed.
was gonna be.
Thanks, Becky.
Yep, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions? All right.
You see that, but.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so next we have, moving on, we have Matt Wyatt, Director of Planning and Zoning, Garfield Coleman, Safety and Risk Manager, Nick Jessica, Director of Veterans Affairs, Lieutenant Andy Brown, Sheriff's Office. Discussion or decision to update procedures on courthouse safety measures related to COVID, as set out in the memorandum addresses to Board of Supervisors dated 28 July 2020. So Matt, you wanna?
I'll let Garfield kind of.
Was there another document, Garfield, that you sent to besides this, or?
The only one document that listed 3 items that we put in place, and then the 3 recommendations, that was the only document that was sent forward.
So this document that just has the.
The three things that we put in place, by the reopening the courthouse,
Okay,
and then the public health interns, and then the West Story entrance for the employees.
okay. So
And
that's, this is the document then?
Right, that's the document.
Okay.
So what we're recommending that the 2 stay in place, the citywide, and then the temperature check screening process, on the west doors for the employees stay in place. And then, removing the interns that's with the customers that's coming inside and bringing that closer to the courthouse security so that they can, perform those functions.
So did we draw, I guess, a line in the sand at the end of June and capture all those costs? Because that's our fiscal year to try to see how much that recoup and then start another set of books for the next year, or are we gonna try to do it?
That's correct, that's the way we're running our reimbursement process for the county as a whole,
Okay.
is we did a cutoff as of June 30th. We gathered all that information of expenditures, payroll times, all that into
Yeah.
one. We're getting ready to submit for FEMA, and then also the state of Iowa will be releasing, CARES reimbursement process this week. So, and then FEMA's gonna project, so we've dated everything as June 30th to get reimbursement from everything, but then we're also billing for a projection to the end of the year, right?
For the 19 or 2021 year.
For all of our expenses in this fiscal year that we're in now, we're doing a projection of up until the end of this year, because we don't necessarily know when
So do we take
activities are gonna resume.
do we take those numbers from whether it's March, April, May, June, divide them by what are 3 or 4, and then extrapolate those for the next 6 months?
Correct, there's formulas that they're using to bill forward.
Okay. I seen a sheet, I don't know, it's been maybe a month ago, on what everybody had for COVID expenses. I haven't seen an updated one, so maybe that's something we can get next Tuesday or something to see where we're at from a county, from 1920, not the guesstimate, but.
Yeah, if you wanna see what we're gonna submit.
No, the
Sure,
actual, well, the actuals for the whole county. I mean, you're not submitting for everybody, right?
I am,
Oh, you are?
correct,
Okay. For all the departments?
correct.
Okay.
Matt, did I hear you say that the application process is coming from the state?
For the CARES reimbursements, they set aside $125 million for counties and cities to submit for reimbursements on expenses that won't be covered under FEMA. And so we were on with Paul Trombano, I believe his name is, governor's office.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Is he back?
And he said that,
Yeah, she's.
so there's a webinar at noon today that he's gonna be on. And he said, last week, he said that they're gonna be rolling out, the state developed a new website, they had hired an accounting firm. And so it's just gonna be a one-page submittal with then supporting documentations. And that's just for the reimbursement piece of the CARES dollars that the state has right now. So we have, prepared all of that information, so that way we're like staged, because the 125 million isn't gonna last long, right? We wanna be one of the first counties to have submitted in, make sure that we get what we can reimbursed.
Is that 100%? Or do you know?
The CARES dollars is gonna be just whatever you allowable underneath the CARES Act would be 100% from the state.
So the state got 500 million, right?
No, they got
CARES money,
1.2 billion.
1.2 billion?
I believe that's what it was.
When's the rest of that gonna open up?
We don't know yet. They have to establish rules for each one of the priorities. So, they gave 50 million to mental health services, and so they've cut out, they gave 56 million to Test Iowa. I think it was what it was when they first started that and made that expense. And so they've been kind of piecemealing it to go out together. Now there's still, from what they said, $500 million left over that has yet to be allotted, right?
That's the 500.
Yeah, so the 500 million left to be allotted is the last piece of what we're waiting to hear about. Where's that gonna go? What's gonna happen with that? Because if they're gonna open that up for projects, then we have projects identified within the community that would better our response efforts if we're ever put into a pandemic situation again.
Does that 125 come out of that 500?
No.
That's even better.
Mhm.
Okay. Garfield, on item 2, you mentioned that you were gonna move the
screeners at the entrance of the public guests. The last screener is scheduled to work until August 12th.
Then what are you gonna do? Then what are we gonna do? Who's gonna be the screeners?
What the plan is to bring the temperature check station a little bit closer inside the courthouse, right by the barriers where the courthouse security, the individuals, as they come to the courthouse, they take their individuals' temperatures, and then they're processed and go through the x-ray machine as normal. So we're just removing the step of having a physical body there, but the expectation is still that as people enter the courthouse, they take their temperature and then process through.
So is that with the handheld thing, or we actually put a tablet there
We got a tablet there.
for the public?
Correct.
Okay.
And so and it's kind of a key term too that Garfield just used, right? The expectation is that you're gonna take your temperature as you go in. When a lot of the school districts and things, when you hear them putting out their use of mask in there, that's the term that they're utilizing instead of saying it's required that you take your temperature, it's required that you wear a face covering. It's that the expectation is you are going to take your temperature and you bypass that machine.
I guess I think we're going down the right path. But I think we should probably, before December, whether it's September or the 1st of October, meet up again, because the weather's gonna change, and people are gonna be dressed different in November and December than they are now, and just talk about that situation and how things are going. And the courthouse is gonna be open in September? Is that?
But the courts that's from what I'm understanding, yes.
Jury trials start mid-September.
So, as soon as that opens up, we may need to, I don't know what juries are gonna look like, and I just think we'll wait until December to regroup. I think maybe in 90 days, we should probably look at regrouping.
No, I would agree. I don't think we wait till 90.
I think the whole thing is still an assessment, but this is just part of the assessment that we think.
It said through, I thought it said we're through December in here, I thought. Did I read that?
I think that was with the cleaning.
That's the sanitation group.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, at least if we're not in here every 30 days or every 60 days, we should be in here discussing kind of the procedures of how things are operating, because we're coming into back to school time. That's gonna be kind of a key time. Get everybody back to school, then we got cold and flu season kicking off. All those things we're gonna be wanting to talk about.
So is it in the, I don't know, the CARES Act or whatever, the monies, does it look like whatever, I'm just gonna round it off, 10 grand a month that we're using on citywide gonna get reimbursed then?
Well, actually, I'd have to clarify which one that's gonna go under, but, so we have two billings that are going out, right? One's going to CARES, one's going to FEMA. And so, it's getting billed somewhere.
Okay.
I can't tell you off the top of my head which way it's going.
We don't know yet whether it's a reimbursable then or not.
I just can't tell you, I don't know which one is getting billed under.
Right, but we don't, no matter where you bill it, you just don't know if you're gonna get reimbursed for it. And if it goes to FEMA, then it's a percent.
Well, if it goes into CARES, anything COVID related, that's COVID related.
Okay, that's 100%.
That's 100% that you can get there. You go with FEMA, the state still hasn't really said yet whether or not they're gonna kick in the 25%, so we could go to FEMA, get the 75% back, and then take the 25% and put that over and bill it to that and see if the state's gonna pick up the remainder of that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
So Mr. Coleman, if a citizen comes in to pay or to license their vehicle.
Okay.
And they take their temperature, it's 102. They shouldn't be in there, right?
That's correct.
So who's gonna monitor that?
Well, that system has an alarm on it, so if your temperature goes above the normal temperature, then it'll set off alarm, just like whether the x-ray machine sets off alarm that give you a warning, a red light, whatever case may be. So someone at that security station will see that alarm going off, and then just like any other processing through the courthouse, say, you're not allowed to come in the courthouse because you did not pass the temperature check, or if you did not pass, if you have an item on your possession that you cannot pass the actual x-ray machine as well.
So we've turned away, the door screeners so far have turned away approximately 30 individuals.
And they check them twice, right? I mean, I'm assuming they
Correct.
do it twice.
So you get hit with it, you go through the tablet screener, the tablet thing says you're high, then the other one's standing right there with the thermometer. You know, use a thermometer,
Is
you're
that
high.
how we're gonna do it with the security guys? We're gonna have them just do the tablet again?
Mhm.
So our security team is gonna be doing the second check?
The first.
If they fail, then of course we expect them to take the handheld and do the second check to make sure that, it's accurate, yes.
Are you okay with that, Mr. Brown?
I was informed that I was already approved by sheriff, so.
Oh. Okay, well. So I should say, are you okay with that, Mr. Danker?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the updated procedures for the COVID.
Okay, got a motion, is there a second?
No, second.
Okay, we have a second, discussion. Just to clarify, this secondary check is within the scope of what the security officers are doing? Or are we planning on coming back with higher pay
As
for
far as
hazardous
the
duty
job
or something?
description, you mean?
The reason I'm bringing this up is because, you know, in my regular civilian career, we've had a security company there, and we started having our security folks do that, and then they came back and said, okay, you're paying a hazard pay on top of us doing it, because it's not within their normal job description. So I just want to know, does this fall under that piece where it says other duties as assigned, so we don't have to make an issue out of this?
I think it's still part of a screening process, no matter if you're screening for a temperature or whether you're screening for a person having a weapon or something on their possession. So I think it's part of the whole flow process of getting inside of the courthouse. And it just added one additional step to step in front of a screen, look at and see whether your temperature is high or not. If it's not, then you process through the explosives, but I'll let them.
Yeah, under chapter 72, that the screeners fall in our standard operating procedure, also does designate, per the sheriff's discretion as well, so.
All right, I just-
that, so.
I'm bringing it up because I don't want it to cost us more money to do it. Does that make sense, everyone? I mean, you know, paying that company a nice extra chunk per hour to have those individuals do that, so I just want to make sure
Well, if
and
it's,
likewise, then we don't make sure we can get it into match and get it recouped if there was something like
if
that.
there is, yeah.
And of course, like, if it doesn't work within 6 days, we can come back in front of the board
Yeah.
and request to put screeners back out front. If the courthouse started getting a mass amount of personnel that's trying to come in the courthouse, they need some help.
So I guess another thing, I don't want to deviate too far off this topic, but, given folks coming into the building, going through the screening process, I mean, across the river, they're making mandates to, wear these in public buildings, wear the masks in public buildings. I mean, is that the route we're looking to go to?
So what we're doing right now is just monitoring the Polk County situation, right? Polk County has requested from the governor's office permission to be able to issue mask mandates if they so need, whether it's for a 2-week period of time or a 30-day period of time. And I talked a little bit to the city council, had me come over to Council Bluffs last night to talk to them about like night things. When you look at what's going on in Douglas County, because you're hearing a lot about that, we're in that media stream market. And I think I still have my numbers written down here. So, Potawatomi County, at our per 100,000 cases, we're sitting at the 1121, and that's per capita, right? Over in Douglas County, what they have going on is 1,700 cases per 100,000. So they have a different spread part happening over there, a wider spread than what we have going on in Potawatomi County. And while the state of Iowa has started their campaign on the Step Up, Mask Up campaign to really try to gain just that voluntary acceptance of wearing a face covering, especially when you're in situations where you cannot socially distance. I think that's kind of where we're at right now, but I was gonna monitor the Polk County situation, so that way if our spread did increase to some point, that we're gonna have to say, from the Board of Health, we're gonna be able to issue this mask mandate or request permission to ask for it, but we're just not at that point right now.
Okay.
So, with that being said, who, it's a municipal infraction, I take it?
Like if they're not wearing it, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, who's issuing the citations?
So they're talking,
Public health issuing citations and who's?
what they're doing out there in Iowa City right now is, because the Iowa City issued their own in disregard, so that's not, what they do is they
The city
pull up.
did?
Yes, the city did, and so they give that person a mask and say, here, did you know that there's a mask order in place? There's a mask. And they're just trying to gain compliance. I don't know that there's any teeth to it, and that's kind of
Okay.
why we're waiting to see what happens with Polk County.
Okay.
So how many masks do we have available to, if we were to do that, to give away? A million?
Offhand?
Yeah.
Well, just from public, we have a small fraction. And I couldn't tell you what we have over at EMA right now, but it's nothing that, it's not like a giveaway thing, because those are that's kind of the reserves for the long-term care centers and the health facilities.
But is that just for when they're in the courthouse, or, I mean, is?
Some of it, what they've done is.
So if I go to Bayless Park, do I have to be wearing my mask then, or not?
Mask?
Pardon?
Probably a mask, I suppose.
Well, that's what I'm just, I mean,
If they're issuing mask mandates, and when you're out in public, they're gonna want you to have a mask on.
So at all of our Hitchcock and all the parks,
Any public area, they would want you to have a mask on.
I'm not sure we're ready for that.
I was gonna say, I just see that being real challenging for us.
Well, it's really why the goal of it is to get compliance just from within the community itself. I mean, we've done a really good job as a community as a whole, as up to, even all the way through right now. Even our long-term care centers, health centers, all of them have been able to withhold this virus from gaining into their communities. And the hospitals up there have worked extremely hard to make sure that we have the capacity in case anything were to happen. And I think that's reflective of what our spread rates are versus what you see in other areas, is people are taking the precautions and being careful where they can. You do have situations where you see people intermixing, but the ones who are taking the precaution, hopefully that, and then our availability of hand sanitizers and things we did right off the bat, I really believe made an effect on where we're at now.
What is our positivity rate for Pot County, do you know, on the test?
We've been sitting anywhere from 5 to 7. We had a couple spikes where it jumped up to about 10, but for the most part, you look 7s, mid-7s is where we've been sitting at.
But the timing of those, I mean, those tests, you'll get 4 one day, and then you'll have whatever 24 the next day. I mean, it's just all over the board, and that'd be a whole different discussion when this thing hopefully ends.
Okay, any other discussion on?
No, like I said, I guess if something changes down there, don't be afraid to come and let us know. We need to tweak it. It's a work in progress.
Will do.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Next we have Jason Slack, Director of Buildings and Grounds. Let's see who's here. Garfield Coleman, we have Sheriff Danker, Chief Deputy Rob Ambrose, Lieutenant Andy Brown, Jail Administrator Tiffany Mass, and Louis Davis, Chief Information Officer David Byer, and Anthony's not here either. So continue the discussion on security upgrades. Jason, you got any updates?
I have no significant updates as far as these projects go. I guess, generally what we're asking for is $800,000 for the courthouse campus and in the jail for a video management system and card access upgrade, and another $600,000 for a PLC upgrade at the jail. Nothing's changed since last week's meeting. Lead times on equipment is going to be 3 to 6 weeks. Our current bids are good for 30 days, so we're probably looking at, probably getting those updated, before we do any action on them. Winter weather, you know, could complicate some of the outdoor work that we're doing at the jail, with these projects. And I really don't have anything else to add, to our previous discussions.
Okay.
Jason, real quick. Would you read off that first number you give us and what that's for?
The,
800,000.
800,000, that is for the courthouse campus and the jail video management system and card access system.
That doesn't include anything for the card readers on doors or anything like that, right, that we spoke about the other day?
That includes card readers on doors in the courthouse and the courthouse campus. I know, we had talked about that, and I didn't think something had looked right after our, discussion with Becky. But that 800, or that $780,000 bid, that included the courthouse campus and the.
350,000 for that?
Yes, that was both bids combined. Then we.
That's different than the conversation we had the other day.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right. I want to get with you when we're done here, if I can, for a second.
Okay.
Well, I honestly, I think we need to pull the trigger and get it done. The cost of this is a long-term investment, and if Maggie's right with her things, we're basically, the system we have in place has been here probably too long, especially the ones in jail with the analog. But we've got to get money, and I hate to even say it's cheap money, but this equipment should last longer than the 4 years it takes us to pay the debt on it and get us down the road and cover us.
What did you guys say
from a risk side.
lifespan was on this? Did they give you?
I think, well, what we had a 5-year service contract with it, we could extend that. I guess as far as the door access system, the lifespan on that is going to be, you know, what it takes criminals to bypass that system, you know what I mean? Because right now ours is obsolete because you can go buy a $20 device off of Amazon and clone cards with it. So whenever the dishonest side of the population gets up to the technology, then it's time to upgrade that.
Do you think the situation we're in right now is an emergency situation?
I think it's urgent.
How long has it been urgent?
Ever since we started looking into doing the upgrades.
Which would have been 2 years ago?
Probably about a year ago is when we started well, it wasn't quite a year ago. It was probably the beginning of this year was when we kind of found out that the card access system could be bypassed that easily.
Okay, how about the security issues at the jail?
It's been an ongoing research. We've fixed things over and over with IT's help. Lewis is the main person that handles all of that, and they spent well over a year researching companies, gathering information, getting those companies narrowed down, getting them in to see what we need. We've done countless walkthroughs with multiple companies just to be able to get the bids. They started working on that probably March of last year, and didn't get our first bids until March of this year. So it's been a longer work in progress.
From the county attorney's perspective, this is an emergency situation because we've had crimes that have not been able to be prosecuted because we simply don't have the evidence due to the lack of updated technology.
Well, Go ahead.
I echo that, is just like you said, when it comes to the work comp claims that's happened out of the jail, some of the things that the insurance has asked for video to look at, and we couldn't produce a good quality video for that as well.
Jail's 20 years old, and I know we've tried to piecemeal things in there and try to place more cameras and do other things, but it's an old system. I mean, it is pretty much in the end of life there for the most part, and it needs to be replaced.
Yeah, I don't think anyone disagrees with that. I think I'll just say that the concern that I have is just that when we started putting everything in our boxes to figure out what we're gonna do for our bonding, this was not one of our items. And so now we're having to do a lot of legwork to try to get this caught up so we can get it into that, because more than likely that's how we're gonna have to pay for this. So I would just ask that in the future, if there are items sitting out there right now that you know are about to fail, or systems like this, we need to know about it, so that we can get it in the hopper, because as you may have been in here or heard in the meeting earlier, based on the decisions that we make with bonding, it may affect what we're able to do next year for bonds, and even have the capability to even do something like this. So it's concerning because, this is not cheap. I mean, it's an expensive thing, and I don't think anyone up here questions the fact that we need to do it. It's just now we gotta figure out how we're gonna do it. And, we have a lot of other plans out there that we've got in our list, and I know that it was mentioned at one point that we did talk about it. But I don't think any of us understood that it was gonna be $1 million, or, the amount of money that it is. So I just asked that when we send out the emails to all departments saying we need to know what you wanna bond for, that stuff like this has to get on the top of that priority list to us right away. So I'll leave it at that. We don't have a decision on here. This is just discussion, so, we need to, I guess this board just needs to make a decision on this, not today, obviously, but how we wanna do it. So if we go push the bond, or.
Yeah, it just goes back to the decision, or not the decision, but the discussion that we had when Maggie Berger was on the phone. We're at 3.1 is what we budgeted for. If we include this, we're at 4.6. So it's the board's decision if they want to, stay with the plan when we put our budget together, or make an amendment to the bonds that, or addition to the bonds that we had previously discussed, and make this part of it. That's our decision we need to make. So.
Or, cash on hand, I guess, but.
It wouldn't have to be amended, we just would adopt.
We would just have to,
Yeah, adopt the extra money for this.
Which, honestly, I mean, to Scott's point about, I don't like the word either, but cheaper money, just the fact that right now is.
Well, it's gonna
interest rates
save
and
us some
everything,
cost for the attorneys and the
Cost of issuance.
Moody's and issuance, and I mean, there's just a lot of the costs that are gonna be
Right.
saved. And the risk that we're exposed to out there, I mean, that cost could be the wrong legal lawyer or lawsuit hits us. The $1.6 million is cheap compared to paying out some, I guess, something that would happen.
Well, I know this group's put a lot of work and effort into it, so I guess what I'd like to do, just ask the board that we you wanna put this on the agenda soon, next week, to vote on this?
Definitely.
Well, won't it be
So I wanna make sure that they're-
decided when we do the, I guess you still may need, I don't know, is Becky still on? May still need a public
I'm
hearing?
still here.
Or wouldn't it just be as we hold the discussions on the other bonding, is it in or is it out? Or does this?
Well, that would be the funding of it. Is it in or is it out is the board's decision whether to tell them to pull the trigger. If it's possible that there's an inclination, we may be issuing the bonds for it, but they are going to be spending the money. It sounds like they're ready to start spending. I might, with your pleasure, throw on a couple of reimbursement resolutions just to have that safety net there as well. So if we start spending before we get our bond proceeds, we can pay ourselves back. And that can happen whether we issue the bonds or not. It's just, again, giving
Right.
authority and making sure we're covered. But there's no more action as far as if it wants to be included in the bond, that's done. That's a decision, are we issuing for this or not? Are we using those monies for these projects or not? That's still just the decision there, and when you're gonna give the word that they can start doing this.
Right, and then you could be that, in any of those other projects, you'd have the same decision, whether it was gonna be for, parks or, whatever, is it in or is it out? Yeah.
Correct.
And we've already discussed the reimbursement, that's what we'll have the hearings on.
Okay, so next week, is that what you want me to put on?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know when it comes to, how this works, but, I know I mentioned the first time we discussed this, that, between the jail and the sheriff's office, I think we did not spend like 525,000. So I don't know if that is something that can be utilized towards that, but I mentioned that one time that was something that was budgeted that went back at the end of this last budget year. So I don't know if that can be, help offset some of this cost, but I would think that
we're
would.
gonna move some of that money
That's in our
Right.
cash balance, so.
right now.
Anyway,
No,
I
that's
just
a great
wanted to
point.
mention it, so.
Okay, so we're gonna drag you along for one more week, at least. So appreciate you all coming. I really do appreciate the work you're putting into this. I know it's kind of monotonous. Government is not efficient, clearly, so.
We are.
You're accountable, you're not efficient,
There
you're
you go.
accountable.
Thank you all
No,
for
thank
all
you
the
all.
work
Appreciate your
you're
time.
doing.
We'll talk about this next week.
We're
and
getting there.
Get your answer. Thank you. All right, thank you guys. All right, next we have, other business on here, we have a transfer resolution. This resolution is for 72-2020.
Yeah, they're working on it.
And this is basically to transfer money from the general fund, property acquisition, or from general fund to the, property acquisition and land improvement fund.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Check. Roll call, please.
I believe it'd be a resolution.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Is there a discussion?
Yeah, one quick question. So when we take that, when we take that general basic, fund down to 15 million, what percentage does that put us at? Do you know?
I
Like
will. do that
40,
Real quick.
it's over 40, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. Perfect.
Well, that's what we planned on. We just couldn't get it done for some reason.
That would be. Sorry, I was answering something else. Let me get to that part of my computer real quick and I'll just plug it in and tell you exactly. Probably go faster on the adding machine or calculator.
I'm at about 35.
Yeah, it's general basic one. Come on, open. Okay, I'm finally here. Fund one. We drop that thing down.
Can't do this in your head.
I think she is.
I normally would, kinda, but then I don't want to be wrong. If we put that back down, okay, 63. Based on if you're doing it off of the actual expenses for this year, that puts us still at 51%. If we take that to 15,000,040, yep,
That's still a 15-1.
51%.
51.
51%, yes.
We take a look at the taxes generated property taxes generated to run county government, which is about 43 million this year. Is that about right, Melvin?
I don't know.
That's where you come up with your number. In my
Well, you
opinion.
do your reserves based calculated on your expense. If you want to do a different calculation on taxes, you can do that.
That's on the expenses, not revenue.
Yeah, it's based, at least that's the
You're right.
accounting practice with the state
But
and everything else.
if our revenue is, we tax people 43 million, that's our expenses too.
Not necessarily,
Property tax.
Well, then we're,
because we get other revenue besides property tax.
that's correct.
Right.
But that, those additional revenues that we get
Hasn't been voted on.
I know.
outside of property tax don't go for the operation of the county.
I mean, even if you said no, then.
Okay.
Okay.
So, anyway, you can call for the vote.
Well, and our property taxes levied against our general basic is 18 million.
Yeah,
But yes, completely with our debt, our rural, our supplemental fund, everything, including rural, it's 44 million.
there we go, that's the number.
Without rural, it's 39 million.
Okay.
Okay, call for the vote, roll call, please.
Chairman Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Drake.
Aye.
And Groby.
Yes.
There you go.
Alright, motion's carried. We have some salary actions here to receive and file reports. Have state travel, so nothing else to vote on except adjourning.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. We are adjourned.
So,
Just so everyone's aware,
Oh, we off, Scott?